You are?
My name is Echo. I'm 22 years old. Um, I describe myself as a poet, and I also suffer from MS.
When did you find out you had MS?
Um, and the ending of January 2014 this year, um, I I was given a rough diagnosis. My urologist was telling me, "Oh yeah, it's most probably MS, but we're still not sure. We'll have to wait for a bit. Do some more tests to make sure we've got it bang on." Ironically enough, a week later, I have a relapse, the first major relapse I've had. Um, at which point he was like, "Yeah, well, it's probably MS." No, it's just pretty much it is MS. The problems with my legs in terms of like my mobility, started being affected when I was 14. Um, so I was diagnosed early this year, but from about 14, 15, I remember this one time I woke up, went to get out of bed and I couldn't. And it was the strangest sensation because it felt like I forgot how to walk in a way, or to use my legs. So, but then that kind of subsided. I noticed my legs had become very weak, um, and since then I couldn't run. So, uh, to answer your question, it's been since 14 till now, I guess, but I was only diagnosed earlier on this year.
How did your relapse happen?
Um, I caught a cold, man. I went over to my mate's house because it was his birthday on the 4th of February. Um, I had a cough. I remember I had a cough and he was like, "Oh, don't give me your cold." And then thought it was nothing. My legs were a bit wobbly, it's a bit dizzy, but I thought, I haven't slept enough or something. I don't know. Anyway, went to his house. We did what we did, hung out, celebrated his birthday, and then next day I went home. Now, when I went home, on the way going home, I wasn't too dizzy. I was all right. Um, went upstairs, laid in bed, sort of. I think I was playing DC Universe, the game. That's a pretty good game. But yeah, and wanted to get some food, so I went downstairs. Got downstairs, got dizzy, like stupidly dizzy. Um, so I had to sit down, and that was the last time I ever stood up on my own.
On the 5th of February 2014, Echo had to be admitted. How did it feel when you first lost your mobility?
Um, right. Excuse me. So where I've been having like mobility problems since I was 14, 15, so 8 years. Um, every time I would have what I now know was a relapse, my legs would get worse. And before before this relapse, I was at the point where I was only walking for 10 minutes, and they were not 10 comfortable minutes at all. But where I was never diagnosed or no one ever knew what was wrong, I just kind of powered through it thinking, I don't know, my legs are just doing something funny for now and they'll go back to normal later. So when I had this relapse, I pretty much lost all the mobility in my legs. Slowly building it up with physiotherapy daily and everything, but at first that it drove me mad because I couldn't imagine being in one place all the time, being in the hospital bed for like for 24 hours a day. But then I was given a wheelchair, hence why I have these gloves. It does make me look like a cool kid as well, but you know, so yeah, I was around in my wheelchair, even though it's not very. I'm afraid I've damaged it, and I've needed repairs quite a few times already because she's fragile. I'm not gentle enough with her. But that, if I'm honest, I know there's a preconception about people in wheelchairs, and if I'm honest, where I can still use my arms, and for now still of sound mind, and I feel like the chair has almost been a blessing. Or not almost, it's been a blessing because I can, whereas before I would have to struggle walking for 10 minutes, I can wheel around for 10 minutes and probably get there quicker than I would have done walking in the first place, you know? Yeah, I do miss being 6'3". I mean, but I don't know. It's all about adapt to survive and all that, right?
Although your wheelchair has been a blessing, and you seem to be finding the positives in a lot of things at the moment, what has been the most frustrating thing so far?
My memory or lack of it, I think, is the most annoying part because at some point during the day I'll feel, you know, tired and unfocused, and these are all things caused by the MS. So my attention span has gone from about 5 out of 10 to about 2, and my memory is so bad I almost forgot what I was just talking about. So it's annoying because, you know, you find yourself, it's more of a struggle to have a conversation if you can't remember what the conversation is about, or you're staring at someone speaking at you but you're just not listening for the life of you because you're thinking about, I don't know, blue ponies and daisies, I don't know. So
Will your memory get better when your relapse is over? Like,
hopefully.
when does your relapse basically finish?
Technically my relapse has finished because my cells have been attacked. That's all been.
Well, yeah. Recovery.
It's just, if you mean the recovery time, no one can really tell. no one can really tell to what level I will recover. It seems as if that, though mine is in the pattern of relapse remitting, it still leaves some scars, and I'm not quite sure if that's because I've never been treated for it and this is the first time I'm getting treatment, so maybe with that you'll see something different.
From reading up and watching things about MS, relapses happen differently for everyone. How did it affect you?
Um, my legs were heavy. I couldn't lift them at all, and I was constantly dizzy, but not like a. They kept asking me, "Oh, is the room spinning?" No, it wasn't like that. It was kind of unfocused, is how I ended up describing it. Just kind of felt out of it all the time. Apparently that's because of the damage to my nerves and X, Y, Z. But when I first ended up in hospital, I was pretty much bedbound. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't imagine standing up or doing anything really. Even eating was a horrible chore. But you know, it's. I keep being told, oh, it's a patient disease. You'd have to, So I suppose that's what I'm doing. I'm being patient now.
How long have you been in hospital for?
Coming up to 9 weeks, I think. Coming up to 9 weeks. Maybe 10. I don't know. I lose track. I find myself talking to my friends being like, oh yeah man, when I'm out I'm gonna come see you and blah blah. And I realise I'm talking like I'm in prison or something. Like, it is a long time. Made interesting friends though.
You mentioned treatment. What treatment have you been on so far?
Well, because this relapse was brought on by a cold, I was on a fluid drip. I was on an IV of just fluids. I don't know if it was just water or some special kind of fluids. And for 3 days I was on steroids, straight infusion. I think it was like 40 milligrams or whatever. And I was on steroids for about 5 weeks. After the 3 days of the infusion, it was all done in pills, going down from 40. And then now I've had my first infusion of Tysabri, which is something I have once a month. It's supposed to have a success rate. Well, what it's supposed to be doing is making longer the time between my relapses by 80%. So where if say in 3 years someone has 10 relapses, if they're on Tysabri, they should only have 2. This is my first month. I haven't noticed any difference, but apparently it takes a few months for you to start noticing. So I'm just waiting and seeing. I'm also on gabapentin to stop spasms in my legs, but I am.
Is the spasms in your leg?
Well, where the nerves are damaged, my legs go into spasms for some reason. I don't know. It was explained to me. I don't remember.
What made you decide to do these videos?
Really, I suppose I've been researching up on MS and stuff, and there's a few forums, and you know, you've got the MS Society and everything, but there isn't anything really out there, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but there's nothing really out there to help people go through it themselves, especially young people as well. There's not a lot at all for young people, because people with MS tend to be diagnosed in their late 20s, 30s upwards. So I suppose that's kind of the motivation for it, yeah.